Hey, welcome to episode 2 of our Made Alive Marriage podcast. In our first conversation, we talked about expectations. In our second conversation, we'll be talking about
creating space for communication.
Which is very important in our marriages. So we hope you enjoy this conversation. If it's been a blessing for you, share it with others. We want to strengthen and encourage marriages all over the world. God bless you guys. Your home, your marriage should be the safest space for you to have conversations, to grow, to talk about your failures, to talk about just areas that you're struggling with. So for us, how do you feel like we have grown? Because I think we were terrible at communicating early on.
It was not even, because our communication styles were so vastly different.
Yes.
So
part of that's
learning,
cultural. Part of that's
cultural,
we come from
yes.
two very different cultures where my culture is very body language, very whoever talks the loudest.
Just low context.
Low context. Whoever talks the loudest wins. Whoever talks the fastest wins. Whoever outlasts the other person just wins.
Yeah. And just not even just in like argumentative settings, but
anything.
Just basic day-to-day communication. Your culture is more, you don't have to give all the details because you're able to just read.
Yes, we're low context culture.
Yes. So you don't have to say the words for things to be understood.
Yeah, most American families, especially white families, are high context cultures.
Yes, high context completely. So it's like, okay, I'm going to email you about this thing coming up. Okay, I emailed you. Now look out for the invitation for this thing coming up. Okay, here's the invitation. It's kind of explaining a little bit about this thing coming up. And then it's like, okay, here's the thing and here's the post email. Like there's so much communication. It's very, very high context. So if you don't actually say the words, you may not know. And
I think we would agree that communication, yes, of course, prayer, spending time with the Lord, growing in your faith, those are all, that's at the center. Jesus is at the center. But the way this plays out is the ability to create safety in communication.
Yes.
Because if you can't be safe in communication.
Yeah. So for us, early marriage, it was less actual communication. We weren't actually communicating with each other. It was more of
talking at each other
or just only communicating when things had kind of gotten to a point where we are now frustrated about something.
Yeah.
So it was a lot more fighting and tension than it actually was. And rarely did things actually get resolved because, like you said, it was whoever was the loudest was the one who kind of won the argument.
Was that strange for you, having to argue with me when we were dating? You thought this guy's perfect, and now he's not so perfect?
Dude, do you remember how much we fought while we were dating?
No, that whole season's a blur.
Yeah. No, it was not a surprise.
So, I mean, of the two of us, I'm the more intense. Far more. I'm way more intense. I'm way more pointed, way more direct.
You're
very quick.
And I am not.
I think that's was a challenge for us.
Slow.
I think that's a challenge for us. You process.
Not quick.
So most couples process differently.
Yes.
Process at different speed. So you are the.
It takes me a while. I have to hear the words, then they have to sit and absorb. And sometimes I can do that internally on my own.
Which would drive me insane because I just needed you to say something.
Yes.
And you would say, no, and I would be begging you, just say something.
And I had nothing to say because I hadn't fully processed. Because in the moment when I'm feeling
you would cry.
I would cry because my natural tendency when I'm frustrated is just that's just what my body does. It just goes into
and it would just drive
trying to regulate
me
itself
insane.
in any way it can.
I would just say something, anything.
My mind would literally be blank in the moment. So you think you would be driving yourself, and I'm like racking my brain to say something.
It was so hard for me to rationalize because I'm thinking this girl can go up, sing on a stage. She is so creative, so smart, is the first and only college grad in her family. Why can't she say...
Is that still true?
It is still true.
It is still true.
It is still true. Now, none of your family watches this podcast, so...
They might.
If we insult them, it won't matter because they won't watch.
Oh, my gosh.
Same as my family. My mom will call me and it'll be like, I saw you put a podcast on YouTube. Actually, YouTube, but I cannot find it. So by the time she finds it, Jesus would have come back. So we have no worries.
She's still got your sister.
She does have my sister. So I need to text my sister and ask her not to share the podcast with her. But I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, yes. It would drive me insane because I could not figure out why you just... And I didn't even care what you said. I didn't even care if you just
And it would, and
you know,
because
yell and
honestly,
scream.
part of it felt like it doesn't even matter. Because so part of it was knowing what to say in the moment. I hadn't had enough time to process. The other part of it was feeling like it doesn't really matter what I say in this moment. He's going to have a response that's
Right.
going to.
And that was very the immature. I was growing in maturity
Yes.
of, I just wanted to win every conversation.
Oh yeah, and you have grown immensely in that area, which I'm very grateful
other areas
for.
too, but that's for a different podcast. My emotions.
Oh,
Where was your mind going? I don't even think that's anatomically possible. First of
You
all,
never
once
know.
you reach a certain age, I don't think it's possible. First of all,
moving on.
you really need Jesus. You need Jesus. You better hope your mom is not watching this
Who
podcast.
says I'm not funny?
That wasn't funny. That was
Matt's laughing.
highly inappropriate.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, it was kind of funny actually. So drive me nuts
Yes.
because I thought that you
Yeah.
want to talk. So you're an internal processor.
Internal processor, sometimes external. It switches. Sometimes I need to talk through things to actually arrive at a point to make a decision.
But most of those times,
that also drives you
But
nuts.
most of those times, you're not asking me for anything. You just want me to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. In those moments, you're just a sounding board, which you love so much
Yeah.
because you just love unproductive conversations.
A little piece of my soul dies when I'm having a conversation that leads to no resolution.
I mean, mostly I can see it because you're just sitting there. You have a look on your face. Like
You should
this,
show the
like,
camera my look. And what is that look telling you?
I'm not actually listening to you.
What's actually
But I'm
saying is
going
my
to let
soul's
you-
dying.
But I'm going to let you just talk because I know you need it.
But part of that,
Which is very
part
gracious.
of that is what being what married is about. Is saying, I think one of the biggest things we've learned that I think many couples need to implement into their marriage is saying what you need your spouse to do
Yes.
in this conversation, and saying,
Yes.
I need you to help me solve this. I need you to help me think through some ideas, and then I'll make a decision. Or I need you to say nothing and just listen.
Just listen. And
And
sometimes
for the vast
it's-
majority of
you don't have to
guys-
listen to me because I'm just talking to myself right now.
Yeah, for the vast majority of guys, and this is not true on a general scale. There are certainly amazing, gifted women that are problem solvers that are leading at high levels, leading in their homes. They can, but in a generality, most men really struggle with just creating space to listen, whether that's to with their spouse or their children.
They wanna
and there's not a resolution to
solve
fix
or
something,
resolve,
and we
yeah.
can measure how it's fixed. So
Yes.
that was difficult. And then there were some conversations for you that were more emotional. So money, for example, was a far more emotional conversation for you than it was for me. For me, money is a very easy, linear. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure we're financially
Yeah.
generous. We give to the Lord. We tithe first, that was the number one thing when we were flat broke.
Yeah.
We were
That is the one thing that we instilled from the beginning that we've never wavered on.
Yes, when we were flat broke. I mean, we were so broke we had to save up to be poor. We were flat broke, but we always said we will give generously. So tithing 10%, and I think that early on taught us that if we can't trust God with the scarcity of our resources or the abundance of our resources, then we can't trust God with anything else.
Right.
So other than tithing, was for you is easy because your parents modeled that to you too. So I think that's the one thing both of our parents really taught us how to give generously. But other than tithing, just talking about money was so hard.
It stressed
for
me
you.
out.
It still is.
it
Not as
still
much, but it
is.
still is.
Yes, it still is, but I just have a better handle. I just like to be prepared going into the conversation.
So why
it's
was-
harder for me to have
so
it
why was
just
that
right on the
topic?
spot.
In
I
the
think
idea of communication, why was that
I
topic
think-
hard for
well-
you? And then what did we do to help you with that?
Yes.
Because mine is emotions. If you want to talk about feelings,
Yeah, that's really hard.
you'd always, I come home and you're like, how are you feeling? And what do I usually
I
say
don't know.
when you ask me how I'm feeling?
I don't know. What do you say?
You like, why are you asking me how I'm
Oh,
feeling?
why
Why are
you
you asking me how I'm feeling?
Yeah, you just don't want to talk about it.
I feel like you should
Yes.
stop asking me this question.
Yeah, money for me, I think for me, especially in our early years, because I just was not great with money, I always felt like I was the problem. So if we were going to sit and talk about money, it's usually because I just felt like, and that had nothing to do with you necessarily making me feel this way. Maybe sometimes. I don't know. It was a hot topic for us for the first several years of our marriage.
Have there for a lot of people.
Yes,
talk
yes.
about money.
But I just always felt, I don't know, I think that child in me always feeling like I was in trouble. So that was for me, money. I just always felt like I was going to be in trouble because I spent too much or whatever. Or I had a ton of student loans back then. So
Yeah.
that was huge. That was probably more than the spending. It was how the heck are we going to pay these loans off? That was the bigger thing.
I think our number one fight or point of contention was money, and not just the lack of it, but the way in which our upbringing, our cultural approach to money was. Where I come from an Indian immigrant family, so money, you save it, you save it, you save it, you don't spend. You're certainly, of course, my parents showed me generosity. We're generous to people, but you don't spend on anything. You keep it, you hide it under your bed.
Yeah.
I don't even know what color my dad's wallet is. I've never seen it. I've literally never seen it. I don't know what color it is.
You're planning well for the future.
Always planning for the future, but you just save it. So you save it, because money comes in. So for us as brown, Indian, Asian, and this is the reality of not just marriage in general, two people come together, but this is the reality of intercultural marriages. Just learning the world works so differently and our perspectives are different. So for me, money was all about safety. It was all about security and safety. So even if we had an abundance of it, it was just you hold it in. You don't ever spend with it, which would drive you insane because you wanted to buy something. And I would just say like, well, why? And you say, we have the money. And I was like, no, let me figure out how to make more.
Right.
And then I'll go buy, and then we can buy this thing.
Yes.
And
I mean, that would go as far as to like health stuff. Like we would have an actual account.
Yeah, but did you need those stitches
things.
Right then and there when you
yes,
sliced your
the
foot
stitches
on the dance floor?
Sliced my foot.
Which is a
Did
true
I need
story.
The ambulance?
Did you need the ambulance?
No.
Because that ambulance was
listen.
$1,800. And the hospital was
I was in a
literally
different
down
state.
the street.
I was in a different state. I didn't know the hospital was down the street.
Yeah, but I did.
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
Not until later. You weren't even there.
I wasn't there. Your friend called me.
I was pouring blood out of my foot.
Yes, you were. And
anyway,
it cost $3,600
the whole point of
to fix that bloody foot of yours.
The whole point of that is we had a savings account specifically for health things, and that was still a problem, even though we had the money in it.
Yes, Hannah, this is.
I know
this
was one of the things we had to learn. Yes,
yeah.
You didn't want to have to spend anything.
Yeah,
so if you
scrappy.
had to spend something, then you go do a side job just specifically for that thing.
I'm scrappy and savvy.
Yeah,
when
I'm
it comes
not.
to, but again, we both were very generous.
Our family, we grew up more in a context that money was pleasure, like that. That's what it wasn't.
Not opulence,
safety.
though. Not opulence.
What do you mean by
it
that?
It wasn't opulence. It's a big word. I know. It's a big word.
Stop.
So your family, I think for you, money is about simple pleasures. It's not you saying, oh, we should go on a cruise and we should go.
Yeah, we weren't
go buy these extravagant
stuff.
things and buy jewelry
little
or things.
day-to-day things.
Yeah, for you, you love money because not love money. You appreciated money because you were able to go and buy the plant that you want for the house, so you can go get a cup of coffee and not have to worry about money. Because growing up, you weren't able to do that. Where I was, so I grew up in a smaller home, less siblings, more money. So we were able to do things.
Right.
And you grew up in a much bigger household with less income.
Yes and no. It started off when we were younger. It was the tighter budgets and the smaller, and then.
But there's more siblings, so you couldn't necessarily. Yes, let's everyone go out to eat all the time. We were able to do that. You weren't, and so we looked at it two different ways.
Right.
And so for you I remember calling you one time because this was back when you could. I don't know if you could do this. You could log in and see what how you spent your money. And I remember thinking,
yes, you can still do that.
Well, I don't know our passwords anymore.
Yes,
so
you do.
so I remember, and I'm thinking to myself, why are there so many? I mean, I think it was close to, if my memory serves me, like close to $300 or $500 worth of Starbucks. And I remember I texted you.
You're over exaggerating.
No. I don't like to ruin a good story with the facts. So I remember texting you and asking you, did your debit card get stolen? There's a bunch, and did some guy steal your debit card and then just go to Starbucks and just load up on lattes?
I feel like that's
and
on
you.
you.
Said,
I feel like if you didn't know that already, you just don't know me.
About you spending money?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, on Starbucks.
Yes.
Everyone who knows me knows I love Starbucks.
I know, but and then you responded with, no one stole my debit card, and yes, I have a problem.
Yeah.
I have that screenshot. Still, I have a screenshot.
I know I have a
So
problem.
here's the thing about communication we had to learn. We had to learn that we cannot talk about everything at one time.
Right.
We
Yes.
had to, we have, and we've still had to, we have to what? Schedule
We
our
have to schedule
conversations.
it for sure.
So
I
we
mean,
have to
we just
schedule our
talked about
conversations,
this.
and this is true. We have to
Yeah.
schedule our money conversations in public.
Yeah.
We do it in public, so there's witnesses.
It's
because
not, listen, it's not
if
as bad
anything
as it
happens
used to
to
be.
me,
We used to do
I need
that.
there to be witnesses.
We used to need to do that because conversations
Got heated.
would get a little bit more heated, but they don't as often anymore because we've learned, well, we're just in general better
Yeah.
with better
But
set up for that.
What's
But
really important about creating safety in marriage, especially in the area of communication, is most human beings cannot talk about everything at one place and one time. Like we cannot go from children to career to sexual intimacy to faith and marriage and church and vacation
Yeah.
and money and in-laws all in one conversation. No human being has the ability to process at that level. And so we've had to say, here are multiple conversations we have to have, and we need to schedule these conversations. And we put it in, literally put it in our calendar. And we say, this is our money conversation once a month. This is a conversation about intimacy, friendship, our season with our family. Is there changes we need to make? Something we're praying about as a family or discussing in our marriage, or time we need to get away. So I think we've done a really good job with that. And adding children to it, I felt like has not helped.
well, obviously, because there's just more.
Yeah,
more
I
to
don't
talk
think.
about.
I don't
and the more
think.
kids you have, every single one of them is so different. Why do they do that?
Yeah, it's because it's all the faults of your family that have.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I told you I'm funny.
Yeah, it's so funny.
No, they're all very different. But kids don't understand that we are trying to have a conversation.
gosh,
so
yeah.
get out.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I would say some of our more intimate conversations that we have kind of that space in our room. We have a couple sitting chairs in there. Those usually are where those end up happening.
So
we're
I
not
think
like super separated from our kids, but
you have to have space.
we just, yeah.
But I think what's helped you and I over 16 years is that our home, we love laughing. We love laughing, and I think one of the first signs that something is not functioning well in your marriage is if laughter has gone out of the window, and I have not laughed with my spouse, because you can fight. I mean, I think we fought hard and then we laughed hard. Usually laugh. So we do this thing where we go to restaurants and then we have to order dessert in different
geez.
different languages?
Yeah, different, not languages,
accents.
Yeah, yeah.
So we each pick we challenge each other to like, I would like the soufflé, please, s'il vous plaît. That was actually not a good French accent.
No, it wasn't.
I usually am much better at my French accent, but we would do that. So we love laughing together.
Yeah, you're better
And
at
so
accents than I am.
yes, I have a good. I'm saying it's my broken childhood. I had to learn how to talk to myself in different accents. So how would you encourage families listening, couples listening, to begin to create safe space in conversation? And then do they begin with the simple conversations, or do they begin with the ones that are hard? Like for us was money. So do you begin with the easy one, begin the hard one? Like how would you say you have to get after this and really make this a priority?
Yeah, I mean, I think the priority conversations that need to take place are the ones that are causing the most tension in the home, because those are the areas that you obviously want to bring to peace, in whatever way that you can. Like you already said, scheduling those out. Saying, hey, what's a good time for you? I know schedules are crazy and we have all these things going on, but this is, a priority for us for the home, for the sake of the home, for the peace of the home. So scheduling those out, and it's, if you have the ability, creating a space in your home that you can consistently go to. And it's like, this is where we talk about
Your
these
physical
things.
space.
Physical
table,
space.
a chair, something like that.
Yeah, table,
That's
chairs.
really good. That's really good advice.
Yes, because
it kind of
that
locks you into the
Yeah,
this
because
is the
then
seat for the
then,
conversation.
yes, this is like where we have the conversation. Now, that may not be possible for everyone depending on your home situation, but finding somewhere consistent. So if you have to leave, if it's, we don't really have a space in our home to do that, but we always go here, whether
Yeah.
it's, we take a drive or we go to a park or we go sit at a coffee shop or something,
Police
whatever
station,
it is.
so there's witnesses.
Yeah, something. Yeah, sometimes those heavier or those more heated conversations, public places, can be a good thing to kind of keep you both
Yep.
tame.
So I would say that would be
filled
our
with
challenge.
grace.
Our challenge. We're still learning how to do it, and every season,
Yes.
constantly figure out, put on paper every conversation you have to have,
Mm-hmm.
and then begin to schedule those conversations. And some of them, many of them are rhythmic.
Mm-hmm.
The money, the vision
Yeah.
for our life. Are we living out
for
the
us,
values God's
if we
given
don't
us? Things like that.
put on the schedule when we're talking about our budget now, if we don't put
And
on
when
the
we have to
schedule,
put everything on there. We have to put when are we going to talk about
Oh yeah,
going on vacation, spending
Right.
time with family. We need to talk about the kids' schedule. We need to talk about intimacy,
right.
all that stuff.
Right.
We put it on paper because it just won't
Yes.
happen if it doesn't.
I'm saying if we're talking about money now and we don't schedule the next time
For
we're
sure.
going to talk about money, then it's less likely to happen. It's like
Yes.
you have to consistently do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really good. So that's something that we are learning how to do
Mm-hmm.
and allowing the Lord to teach us. And I think one of the strengths of our marriage has been, and hopefully will be, is never believing we've arrived at the place, but
Mm-hmm.
always opening ourselves to be willing to say, what is God teaching us
Mm-hmm.
about himself, about marriage, and about everything in between
Yeah.
in our season.
Yeah. And entering into those conversations with just all the grace.
Grace, mercy and grace.
Yes.